Episode 1, Part 2, Cosmic Architecture and the Daily Refinement Protocol. If you've been feeling pressure, urgency, and a strange intolerance for half-truth, you're not imagining it. These are unprecedented times, not because the world is loud, but because the field is changing, and it's demanding a new level of inner structure. This isn't just awakening anymore. This is architecture, embodiment. And today, we're grounding it into something you can actually live and experience. Comment, I build with energetic integrity. Then stay with me because I'm giving you a practical protocol you can use twice a day. Section 1. 0 point first before you create. Before manifestation, before discipline, before deciding what's next, you start with the 0 point. Not emptiness, not numbness, not avoidance. 0 points or the neutrality in full presence. It's the moment you stop fighting the present moment. The moment you stop fighting yourself. Step 1. Acknowledge where you are. Name it plainly, no story. I feel pressure, I feel resistance, I feel grief, I feel numb, I feel intensity. Not fixing anything yet, just acknowledging. Because clarity begins with honesty. Section 2. Acceptance. Without having to like it, necessarily. Acceptance statement. Step 2. Say it exactly like this. I accept what is, even if I don't have to like it. This is the pivot. Acceptance isn't surrendering your power, it's removing the friction that drains your energy. There is no denial or lying, just radical honesty. Section 3. Identify resistance, the hidden unconscious leak. Identify what you're resisting. Ask, what am I refusing to feel? What am I trying to control? What am I postponing? What truth am I negotiating with? Resistance is usually a low-grade hum in the background. It doesn't scream, it drains. It is how you stop leaking energy. Next, we tackle the filters. Section 4. Identify the filters running your field. Filters are the unconscious operating system. Example of filters. I'm not ready. I'll do it when it's perfect. What if I fail? Who am I to? I'll wait for a sign. I don't want to disappoint anyone. These are not thoughts. These are frequency distorters. You don't fight them. You notice them, name them, and allow them to be without identifying with them. These are old, obsolete programs live in your system. Then you return, unmoved, unshaken, neutral. Section 5. Embody the frequency sought, not chasing it. Choose your frequency like an architect. Not mood, not performance, not pretending, but choice. Attunement. Ask, what frequency am I embodying today? What frequency am I attuning to? Examples, you can tune into peace, gratitude, clarity, courage, being heart-led, discipline, softness and sovereignty, truth. The list goes on. Then define it in behavioral proof. When I embody this frequency, how would I be? How would I feel? What would I do today? One action, one proof at a time. This is how frequency becomes real. Section 6. frequency checks all day. You will fall out, especially in the beginning of stabilization. That's normal. The key is to stop turning the fall into yet another commentary, another story. Step 6. Frequency checks. Micro checks, simple. Set 3 to 5 check-in, morning, midday, afternoon, evening, and ask, what frequency am I in right now? Is it aligned with what I choose? If not, what's the smallest adjustment I can make right now? Not a spiritual overhaul, just a micro recalibration. Section 7. The easy return. For 30 seconds, hand on chest or belly. Inhale on a count of 4. Hold for 2. Exhale on a count of 8. Repeat 3 times. Then whisper, I return to myself. I stand in my structure. I build from coherence. I am here. I am aligned. I am whole. This is how it becomes second nature. If you feel a shift from processing to building, comment, I recognize the observer. I am the observer, the observed, and the act of observing itself. From understanding to mastery. The observer effect applied to the self. We are no longer dealing in theory. Not spiritual language, not psychological constructs, not archetypal frameworks. We have reached the place of self-mastery, and mastery begins with observing the observer. Before we create from awareness, we must ask, from which awareness am I creating? From fear, from reaction, from inherited identity, or from the stable observer itself? The observer effect in physics shows that observation influences outcome. But before we apply this to reality, we apply it to ourselves. We observe our thoughts, our emotions, the identities that are dissolving, the confusion, the fear, the surrender. And something radical becomes obvious. The awareness watching the confusion is not confused. The presence witnessing fear is not afraid. The observer of dissolution is not dissolving. The part of you that watches the crisis is not in crisis. And this is the breakthrough. The butterfly principle at this stage. The butterfly is observed before it pierces the chrysalis. You first glimpse your true nature, then you practice returning to it over and over, then you recognize it as stable. At first, only glimpses, then after repeated entrainment comes crystallization. Like frequencies, conversion into harmony, into a healthy body, a healthy mind, a healthy heart, a healthy spirit. Say, I am a healthy and aligned being. You observe your true nature before the body stabilizes into that center, before you become the center. And through repeated observer effect awareness, that state becomes a permanent possibility. Identity reversal. We realize something irreversible. We were identifying with the contents of consciousness instead of consciousness itself. We mistook emotions for identity, circumstances for identity, roles and crises for identities, temporary states for essence. But what is doing the looking was always there. Consciousness cannot lose consciousness. The observer cannot lose the observer. Awareness cannot lose awareness of itself. The illusion of losing oneself dissolves, and with it the illusion of separation. We realize there is no separate self left to lose or left to defend. The end of identity crisis. Identity crisis becomes impossible when identity is no longer based on experience or circumstances. You are no longer the fear, the mood, the reaction, the praise, the circumstance, the rejection. You are the field in which these arise. Emotions become weather patterns, opinions become data, situations become navigation challenges, not definitions. The part of you that remains stable through chaos is your true nature. And once recognized, it cannot be unrecognized. The eternal now. From this recognition, something else becomes clear. The present moment is the eternal now. Illimited possibilities exist here, not as fantasy, but as frequencies. We don't chase possibilities, we attune to them. By embodying their frequency long enough, we collapse them into lived experience. This is not manifestation hype, this is frequency entrainment. Integration along the way becomes mastery. The permanent shift. You begin to notice that self-esteem no longer fluctuates with feedback, self-worth is not up for negotiation, purpose is not dependent on validation, identity is unconditional to mood or climate, you no longer practice maintaining your center, you recognize you are the center, you are anchored in essence. Challenges no longer threaten identity. They deepen recognition of the unchanging awareness. The dissolution phase was necessary. The confusion was necessary. The losing self pattern was a stage. But now, it is no longer possible to lose yourself because you see clearly. You are pure awareness, temporarily focused through a human experience. And awareness cannot be destroyed by its contents. If this resonated, pause this video and sit with this for 60 seconds. Notice what is noticing. Then come back and write, I cannot lose myself. A practical integration or observer refinement protocol. In the morning, sit for 2 minutes. Notice your thoughts, observe your emotions, your bodily sensations. Feel free to name them. Ask, who is noticing this? Who is observing? You are teaching oneself not to collapse into identification with impermanence. Breathe, feel your coherence, alignment with your essence. Unfazed, unchanged. Midday. When emotion spikes, pause. Name it. Ask, is this me or is this passing through me? Then return to center. In the evening, review one moment of reactivity. Reobserve it now from stable awareness and ask, what is the frequency needed me to know? Feel the difference. Entraining awareness strengthens it. Repeat daily. Eventually, the practice of observation leads to stabilization, embodiment, and identity crystallization. The final reinforcement. You are not building a new identity. You are uncovering the one that never dissolved. The masks fell, the borrowed identities faded, the temporary states were witnessed and released. Now, what remains is presence, awareness, unshakable center. From identity crisis to embodiment of your true self, its human and divine aspects. You are all, you are one. This is the mastery stage where life becomes much simpler and lighter. Cosmological patterns matching human evolution. Saturn enters in Aries. This is why Saturn in Aries matters, because once you recognize yourself as the observer, you cannot hide behind endless processing. You cannot rehearse awakening eternally. You cannot pretend to be confused anymore. You are now responsible for building from this awareness, which unveils you as a multidimensional being, a field of resonance, encompassing a multitude of frequencies at once. You can hold paradoxes without flinching. You are everything and no thing. This is where mastery meets architecture. Not mastery as something to achieve, but something that you already are, something you are now remembering. The karmic reset and the architecture of sovereignty. We are not only stabilizing individually, we are stabilizing within a new 29-year collective karmic cycle. A Saturn cycle lasts approximately 29 years. This is not a monthly shift, this is a generational tone reset, and it begins in Aries. The cosmic message here: you are no longer rehearsing, you are building. Saturn entering Aries is not symbolic fluff. Add to it the conjunction with Neptune at 0 degree Aries, which has not happened in the last 9,000 years, and it marks a reality shift, a structural reset, a discipline reset, responsibility reset, a karmic audit, a new initiation of will and vision. Aries is the first sign, the beginning, the ignition, the genesis. And Saturn is the taskmaster, the structure, accountability, maturity, and karmic reckoning. When Saturn enters the first sign of the zodiac, the question becomes unavoidable. What are you standing for? What are you building now? Are you building as a response or as a reaction? What are your values? Do they match your true essence? What are you willing to take responsibility for without victimhood or blaming? This is not emotional spirituality. This is spiritual adulthood. The end of illusions. Aries, with the assistance of Neptune, dissolves, pretending, have commitment, spiritual bypassing, playing small, indecision, perpetual threshold living. It reinforces integrity, alignment, follow-through, mature sovereignty, heart-led leadership, action backed by attention. This is not about aggression. Aries, ruled by an unintegrated ego, fights. Aries, ruled by integrated sovereignty, initiates and reigns. The patriarchal distortion dissolves not through rebellion but through responsibility. Victimhood cannot survive Saturn in the fire of Aries. Neither can false humility. You either own your path or stagnate in the in-between. Jupiter retrograde in Cancer allows for finding emotional stability within the midst of this unfolding. It amplifies a new sense of home, safety, and security born from within and sustained regardless of external circumstances. The internal audit. You will feel it as your inner critic dissolving, overthinking reducing, decisions becoming clean, narrative shifting from doubt to command, excuses becoming intolerable, no longer justified, energy consolidating. Your eternal dialogue changes from "Am I ready?" to "I am responsible." Carl Jung said, The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Saturn says, then prove it. If you are ready to stop rehearsing awakening and start architecting from awareness, comment, I choose disciplined sovereignty. Mystical and scientific echo and patterns. Astrology describes timing cycles. Physics describes field dynamic. Biology describes nervous system adaptation. When coherence stabilizes internally, external structure follows. When internal responsibility matures, outer reality reorganizes. Einstein said, "The field is the sole governing agency of the particle." Saturn is structural gravity, Aries is ignition. Together they forge sovereign creators. Cosmic cycle as evolutionary engine. Saturn, Aries, and Neptune, the structural, spiritual, and initiatory trinity. Saturn represents structure, discipline, karmic accountability. Aries, initiation, identity, will, ignition. And Neptune, dissolution, mysticism, dreams, illusions, versus transcendence. Together, they are burning false identity through the Aries fire, dissolving illusion of old cycle, the old persona, Neptune water, demanding structural maturity, Saturn, and the earth element. Fire, water, earth. This is alchemy, and we are the vessel of transformation. Venus, the softener, the glue. Venus is coherence made beautiful, harmonious. Unconditional love that glues the scaffolding Saturn builds. Relational intelligence inside sovereignty. If Saturn is structure, Aries is ignition, Neptune is surrender, Venus is integration through love. Not sentimental love, not attachment, not transactional love. Venus as value alignment, harmonic resonance, magnetic coherence, beauty emerging from order. Venus prevents sovereignty from turning cold and meaningless. It prevents strength from becoming domination, prevents discipline from becoming self-punishment. Venus says, stand firm in your magnificent essence and remain open to illimited possibilities. If you are done identifying with temporary states, with temporary persona, and ready to stabilize in your true center, subscribe and watch this new series, Series 4, which is about structured embodiment, and catch up with the previous series. Cycles within cycles, the triple convergence. We are not only inside a Saturn cycle, we are inside multiple cycles converging simultaneously. This is what makes this moment unprecedented. This is not a single planetary transit, this is also a rare triple convergence. The Chinese New Year of the Fire Horse, a new moon in Aquarius, which usually falls on the 21st to the 22nd of February, changed timing to the 17th to coincide with the two other events, and a Ring of Fire solar eclipse. When cycles overlap like this, history shows they correlate not merely with evolution but revolution. Not just chaos for chaos' sake, but structural, systemic reset. The fire horse represents initiatory momentum. In Chinese cosmology, the fire horse is one of the most intense archetypes of momentum, freedom, acceleration, and independence. Fire horse years historically correlate with radical independence, break from tradition, accelerated shifts, refusal of confinement, sudden bold action. This is not passive transformation energy, it is ignition. It does not tolerate stagnation. Combined with Saturn in Aries, this becomes a discipline and supported revolution, not just evolution. Not rebellion, but sovereign restructuring. New Moon in Aquarius and collective repatterning. Aquarius governs collective consciousness, technological evolution, higher mind out-of-the-box thinking, systems reform, humanitarian shifts, future world architecture, and human blueprint. A new moon represents reset, blank slate, seed planting. A new moon in Aquarius during this cycle is not subtle. It represents collective reorganization of consciousness, individual awakening stabilizing into social architecture, the rebel archetype evolving into systems architect, the lone seeker becomes a recognized sovereign through resonance, and number 3, the ring of fire, solar eclipse, and threshold compression. Eclipses compress timelines and their effects linger for 6 months and longer. They remove illusions abruptly. They accelerate endings and beginnings simultaneously. The ring of fire is especially potent symbolically, appearing as a sliver of circular light in the midst of darkness. Historically, eclipse cycles have coincided with regime shifts, cultural revolutions, technological pivots, mass awakening events. Not because the eclipse causes it, but because it marks compression in the field, followed by decoherence. In this space of temporary instability, the self can reorganize, and so does the field at large. Cycles within cycles. Now layer this with Saturn in Aries, which hasn't happened in 29 years, and which marks a structural reset. Neptune dissolving illusion, the fire horse ignition, the new moon in Aries genesis, the convergence of archetypal engines. Cycles within cycles. Individual identity reset, collective system reset, technological reset, spiritual maturity reset, collective consciousness reset. Revolution versus evolution. Evolution is gradual, revolution is catalytic. This convergence carries revolutionary undertones. Not necessarily a political revolution, but a structural revolution of the technology of consciousness going mainstream. Victimhood dissolves, external authority collapses, borrowed identities fall. Old patriarchal distortions weaken as the hidden is made visible. Artificial versus natural intelligence dynamics revisited. Collective will and identity versus individual agency themes re-emerge. Internal sovereignty rises. The cosmos is not separate from the psyche. As above, so below, one consciousness, one love. Now on to historical parallels. When cosmic convergences restructure reality. These are rare alignments that have historically coincided with civilizational pivots, not superstition but pattern recognition. Let's look at precedents. Number 1, the French Revolution in 1789. During the late 18th century, Saturn-Neptune cycles coincided with collapse of monarchy authority, dissolution of old hierarchical structures, reorganization of social identity, radical sovereignty movements. When structure dissolves without maturity, chaos erupts. When structure dissolves with consciousness, order, harmony, sustainability, and sovereignty emerge. We are not in 1789, but we are in a similar archetypal tension. Old authority models are weakening and collapsing. Individual sovereignty is rising. And collective systems are restructuring. Number 2, the Renaissance or rebirth epoch of the 15th-16th century. Major planetary resets during the Renaissance period corresponded with the collapse of the medieval worldview, the emergence of humanism, a scientific revolution started, the printing press started reshaping knowledge, spiritual authority was decentralized, identity shifted from obedient subject to thinking individual. We are in a similar decentralization moment now, but this time, authority and agency are internalizing. The printing press democratized information, the internet globalized connection. AI is restructuring cognition, the workplace, and how we relate to our own innate natural intelligence. Themes around natural versus artificial intelligence take center stage. Number 3, the Internet revolution in the mid-90s. 29 years ago, Saturn completed yet another major cycle shift. The Internet began restructuring communication, commerce, social structure, information hierarchy. At first, there was chaos, then integration. And now, we are entering another 29 structural reset, but instead of connectivity being disrupted, identity itself is being recalibrated. Identity as individuals, as a collective, is being redefined. Why it feels so intense? Because you are not just healing, you are synchronizing with a generational reset. The pressure is archetypal, the urgency is structural, the dissolving is timed. The invitation under the triple convergence. This is not the time to hover at the threshold. This is not the time for endless processing. This is the time to identify your structure, old persona, or pure awareness, having a human experience. Refine your frequency, stabilize in your center, build from observer awareness, participate consciously. Revolution does not begin outside. It begins when identity no longer collapses under pressure, when awareness becomes unshakable, when sovereignty stabilizes. Anchor statement. Cycles are turning, structures are resetting, illusions are dissolving, ignition is here. The question is not, is the world changing? The question is, will you mature with it or resist? Will you continue to fight for and defend the old you and its attributes, your old mistaken identity? Or will you free yourself from it and embrace all that you are, not a part of it, but the wholeness of you? Practice unified field from inner to outer. Number 1, close your eyes. Then put a hand on your heart and feel your heartbeat. Feel your cells. Imagine each cell glowing, softly radiating. You are a field within a field. Now widen your focus. Feel the room. Feel the air on your skin, entering your lungs. Feel beyond the walls. No force, no strain, just inclusion. Merging seamlessly with all that you are. Whisper, I am a fractal. I am field. I am coherent. This is the 0 point. Share this episode with someone stuck in an identity crisis. The grid strengthens when one or more person recognizes the observer. Heal deep, rise sovereign, build within the convergence. You are supported. Spoken closing mantra. I stand sovereign. I remain open. I am structured but soft, disciplined but compassionate, rooted but expansive. I am fractal. I am field. I am coherence embodied. Love is my architecture. Presence is my power. Integration is my devotion. I radiate without force. I receive without fear. I build the new world by being it. Drop a comment. I choose disciplined sovereignty below. Subscribe and watch the series about embodiment becoming structured. Get the free ebook, Energy is Everything, Using Science and Spirit to Master Vibrational Reality. When you subscribe, it is free. This companion ebook grounds this work in both mysticism and physics. Share this episode with someone stuck at the threshold. Heal deep, rise sovereign. Still Fire 1111. Enter at your own shift.